like even let's say competitors for a bodybuilding show, like Muscle Icon, they go into it with this idea of the structure of this is when I'm going to be stepping on stage. So all these things need to line in place to get up to that moment. And when that shifted, anyone who used that structure as their safety net, it was like all the training wheels are off and I got to figure this out on my own and make it, you know, applicable for myself. And that can freak people out. I mean, well, I mean, what isn't new during, you know, this fun time? But it's been quite a blessing. I came out of like the 4 months, I would say, of thinking, hey, this is cool. I already know how to quarantine myself. I already know how to isolate myself. Been doing that for the last year after surgery, you know, like figuring that whole part out, you know, not really being super social or being like a outgoing member of society, I'll say. And then when that hit, I was like, oh, cool, everyone will be on my level now, and we just all won't do things, and this will be great. And I'll be an even playing field when we come out of it. And then around month 4, I think I was like, okay, this is not normal for me to not even see like clients, you know, with what I do in personal training and my spray tanning business. I thrive off of like people's energy. And sometimes my clients are the only people that I see in a day. So besides Donnie, besides my dog, I'm like, okay, wait, who, like I haven't talked to anyone in like 3 days. This is an issue.
Yeah.
So I started realizing like that was getting to me mentally in a way that, you know, when we learn to like be alone, that whole process is hard for people. I did that for so long that I thought I'm like impermeable to any kind of loneliness, if you will. But then I started realizing like it's not about the money aspect of not having my clients. It's that I truly miss that interaction. And I know, you know, as a personal trainer as well, like we vibe off that energy and sometimes it's like a family, you know? So I started kind of going a little bit nuts around month 4. And then by the grace of God, my lifting coach, who's also my pastor, and I think you know this story. I don't know if I've told you about him, but he introduced me to somebody in our Bible study who is a ex-professional soccer player. And he's like, you two are going through a very similar kind of like transformation in your life. So you should link up. Right. We ended up talking, and he was in need of a female soccer coach and didn't know that I played soccer. And we just started talking, and then all of a sudden it was like, do you want to help me with training some of these girls to prepare them for high school, for college, different levels? And I was like, what? God, like soccer? That's been out of my life for so long, you know? And it just started to roll organically. And now during this time, I've been able to do one-on-one with like strength, conditioning, agility, mobility, and skill work with these girls to help them prepare for elite levels, which is like obviously where I played at. And it's like to see this whole thing come full circle during a time when like I really didn't know what to expect. And this whole new thing blossomed where I don't know where it's going to necessarily lead for me, but you watch as like you flow through your life and you never think something that you did 10 years ago would come back in a way that is allowed me to connect with others, and not just others, like young girls, where I know how I was at that age, how impressionable and how much in need of mentorship that I was at mentally, that now I can be of service in that way because of the work that I've done and because of how I've learned from my ways that I could have been better in that regard back then. So honestly, I've been doing that to keep like my mind going. And then, you know, training wise, obviously with gyms closed, I've realized, and this probably sounds, you know, crazy coming from like us in the bodybuilding world, who the gym is kind of that sense of solace, is I've been forced to go outside and realize like I have this affinity for being in nature, and I become like a hiker, like an actual hike. Like I just went to Utah and did Zion, and like I've been going to just take myself to do things that I wouldn't usually do. And that's what it's like, forcing me to step outside my comfort zone. And
we did the same thing with the Grand Canyon.
You did?
The hike.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's my next.
the trail. It was tough. Yeah, it's not my zone either.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe I don't look like necessarily, but I love getting dirty, getting into nature. And my only thing is like camping. I could do like one night in the car, but like don't give me consecutive nights. I really would love like a shower or some kind of washing ability would be great. But yeah, I'm like learning how to rough it out and be with nature, and that's great for my mind. And it's cleared out so much stuff that was hindering me in the last few months of feeling like stagnant. And I feel like there's nothing, and this plays into, I think, the minds of a lot of people going through this process with having their goals be pushed back. It's like, there's nothing more destructive than stagnancy, like in our lives and our mentality and our businesses and our growth. And it's like that whole metaphor of like stagnant water has bacteria. It has all these things that literally can kill us, but flowing water is the most powerful element in the world. So it's idea of like transitioning into that, but it takes courage. It takes being willing and open to try something new and literally go with the flow. So I've had to like live into the words that I have spoken and like walk the walk, or bob the bob, I don't know, but go with it, because that's all we can do right now. It's been,
I went through a lot of that same stuff, because I didn't realize how much I relied on my schedule, meeting other people. Just getting in the car and driving somewhere just gets me going. Like I feel like, okay, the day started, like, we're gonna make things happen. And then when the pandemic started, I didn't realize how much that stagnancy you were talking about was going to start forming all these negative thoughts and all these like, doubts and stuff. And I actually got reached out to by a number of competitors that were going to compete with us in May, who said that they felt that they don't have anything to work for, and what do I do now? And so that was one of the interesting things that I started really thinking on is, okay, what happens when all this stuff gets taken away? The stuff that you rely on to kind of make you happy, and now you're in this uncomfortable place where you're not thriving the way you want to because you don't have the tools that you need to. So, I went through kind of a similar process, and then was talking to a friend of mine who was saying, he was trying to look at this as a new challenge where, you're out of your comfort zone. It's a new challenge. What can I learn during this time? And I felt like COVID taught me, to be patient, to be, like how important accomplishing tasks was for me. I didn't realize how important it was for me.
The awareness of what certain things measured for the value of things, right? Exactly. I think if you're willing to sit still for a considerable amount of time to look at where is this anxiety coming from, this kind of like uneasiness coming from. And if you get to the root of it, usually it's that we've become so programmed to need certain things to fill us and to make us feel a certain way, when in actuality, like when you strip those away is when we're the most, clear. But we don't realize how much, how reliant we are on certain things.
I remember going outside. We have we're fortunate we have a backyard. I know a lot of people, like a lot of my buddies in New York, they've got like a tiny, 500 square foot apartment. But I tried like during the quarantine to really try to test how well I could be present in what I was doing and how well I could just sit with thoughts. It was hard. It was not as easy as I thought it was going to be, it gave a whole new value to things like meditation. And
I was going to say, when you say sit with your thoughts, were you like meditating or just sitting there like, I am okay.
Well, I think it was, sitting with my thoughts that I notice how good I am at distracting myself. And I'm sure a lot of people have gotten really good at this too, where if I'm not on Instagram or YouTube or something, or I'm not trying to create something on social media, and that was kind of taken away from me. I love like trying to come up with new things that I could, expand the brand with. And when that was kind of taken away and, posting in the gym or all these, like the shoot we just did, like before it started, I felt like I couldn't really post a lot of that stuff because
isn't that a huge one? I love, sorry to interrupt you, but I love to talk about that aspect of, even those of us who create from a very organic and authentic place, it forced you to realize like even that is something, the creating that is still a doing. It's still a need to be able to feel something and then feel fulfilled by it, or feel like I am still progressing. But it's that concept of it has really, for me, and a lot of people that are using this time to do the work, is like realizing it's the doing and the needing to do that has caused us to be in this state of kind of unawareness and lack of compassion for ourselves and for others, because we're so constantly consumed with what we can do. And I had to check myself, because I was like, that even is creating. Where creating is the most organic thing that humans do. But again, it's do versus just be. And like, how can we just be and be okay with that? It forced us, those of us who do care about, obviously not posting stuff that isn't in line with, caring about the state of things. Like you could post things in the gym, but obviously it's like, is this conducive to making other people feel like, well, crap, I don't have access to that stuff, or it doesn't make sense anymore, right? Like I had tons of content I could have been posting during this time, and I decided to take there was no time limit. It has turned into 2.5 months of hiatus. I had no time limit. I just said, I'm going to step away from this until I can just be fully present and not have that like internal desire or like push to put something out there, unless it came from the most like
authentic,
higher up thought, like I have to put this out there, and I don't care what the response is. I don't care, like, for no expectation, right? Because as business owners, and even a creative business owner, you're still obviously thinking of the content in which you create. How can it affect others? How can it serve? And I'm not saying that don't post unless it's serving, but I just got into a place where I was like, what is your why, Tamara? Like, what are you posting all this for? And why do you need to be consistent with it? All that made sense when I was building my brand. But as I've made this transition, and as like the world has revealed to me kind of what is the trajectory of things happening, I had to take a step back and be like, you need to be much more purposeful and intentional about what you put out there. And I thought maybe a couple weeks would be great for me to get into that headspace.
Right.
I thought going out of the state, I thought all these like ways to escape what was happening in here and in my spirit. And then realizing, going away from it all, I can't escape what's happening in here. I need to get to a place that I feel congruent with what's happening here, and then what I put out there. And that's putting everything out in front of us like a freaking soul yard sale, and being like, what do I want to pick back up and take with me onto this next journey? And it makes business look different. It makes friendships, relationships look different. And it makes the way I look at health and wellness different. And I've had to deprogram, and I'm not even saying reprogram yet, because I don't think I've really put things back in yet. They're still all out here, and I'm like, just like, I don't know if I need that. It's okay. Like, and that takes time and patience. And that's what I'm realizing I have the hardest thing with. My anxiety and my stressors come from an impatience that is so like wrought with like, figure it out, Tamara, figure it out. Okay, tomorrow. Okay, 2 days. Give yourself 2 days. Like these deadline thoughts of like, you must figure it out by this time. And I think that's what's really going on with people who set goals for themselves, and people who have who live in our society, period, point blank. We have a very like deadline driven society, and like this whole like, if you don't have a deadline, you won't have accountability. Well, I believe that that's something that we can build within ourselves, is that accountability within ourselves, and also building tribe. And I think that's what you've done so well with your business with Muscle Icon. It's building a sense of tribe and community where you can support one another in going after something, and then also in stepping back and realizing maybe that wasn't our main goal. Maybe our main goal was to become really cool with ourselves and really good with the present moment. And yeah, there was a bodybuilding show at the end of it, but we got all these amazing things on the way to that journey, you know, on the way to that goal. And I had to look at my life that way too, because even though I'm not trying to step on stage, I'm like, well, what is all this that I'm releasing and taking with me and producing? What is it for, essentially? And I have really like that, this like social media detox, if you will, and not even social media, like any news. I don't watch TV. I know it sounds crazy for someone to be like, you don't even know what's happening. I was like, I know I felt an earthquake. That was what I felt. And I experienced it myself. And I know there was fires because I saw them with my own eyes as I was driving to Utah. And I know these things because I'm experiencing them, but I'm not allowing my psyche and my soul to be drawn to it, because I know how I function best is when I am clear of all the voices, all the different opinions, and even people with the best of intentions. I just don't do well when they're all weighing on me. So I've been taking this time to get clear and rid of things. And right now, I don't know if you, I mean, you're aware of it or whatever, but like people who follow like biblical dates, like it's Rosh Hashanah, it's the biblical New Year. And I have this sense of like this renewing spirit that's happening right around this time as the world shifts, that we're going to get really clear on what we don't need anymore. And like, there will be some that don't have the intuitive spirit or the ability to see and recognize what's really happening on a bigger scale, on a global or even spiritual scale. But those who do will need tribe and community and togetherness more than anything. However we can get it, whether it's like this, you know, or we can talk on this, or picking up the phone or seeing them in person. We'll need that, and it won't be about the goal. It'll be about that. And that's, I think, what is transitioning in the world. And I love that aspect of it. And that makes me excited about what's to come, versus being like everything we all worked for is down the drain, or we have to reconfigure all these thoughts. Well, you've already planted the seeds with your business. You've already planted the seeds with this show. But in essence, you don't know what that fruit is going to bear, what it's going to look like. It might look something completely different. And like the ability to be resilient and literally bend and move in the wind is to realize like, maybe I've created something for something totally different than this, and I got to be okay with that. You kind of got to be the bearer of that, and to show people who are reaching out to you, know, that it's okay that what I've created might look different, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it usually does. You know, it doesn't always look the way that you think it will.
No.
You know, you turn a lot of corners on the road to, you know, this, I guess, quote unquote, finish line. And that's what I liked about competing too, is that I thought it was just going to be me going on stage, and that was it. And I was going to, you know, hopefully get a trophy, and then, you know, but I made all these connections with people. Like there's, you know, that whole term brothers in iron. Like I started understanding kind of a little bit about what that meant. And, you know, different opportunities, even this, you know, like the Icon show, like that came from me thinking I was going to be a competitor, and then having other thoughts and being open to having new things come into me. And I noticed that happening to a lot of people during the quarantine, where they had, like I said, they had these things taken away from them, and now they're in a position where they can just let things come in. And, you know, we had that interview with Chase back in March, and, you know, some of the things he was talking about, I think he recently just got a new job from some other place that he wasn't expecting. You know, a buddy of mine from New York got that, you know, started working for this other company he never thought, you know, he'd be working for. So I think that's one of the cool things that's come out of the quarantine is people's expectations get taken away, and then new things are allowed to come in.
If you're open to it, right?
Right, if you're open to it. Yeah.
people like Chase and yourself and myself, and I'm sure your buddy, like, had the wherewithal to see that opportunity. Whereas a lot of people who are so caged into that idea and that expectation can't break away from it to see what could be on the other side and to see
Yeah.
the possibilities of something being different. And I know that that's very difficult because some people in their rigidity, they need that, like, structure and rigidity is safety for them. And so the idea of letting that go and moving on to something that could be totally new or foreign almost feels like failure in some people's eyes, or feels like, I can't let that go. Like, I've been so married to this or worked so hard for this. Like, even let's say competitors for a bodybuilding show like Muscle Icon, they go into it with this idea of the structure of, this is when I'm going to be stepping on stage. So all these things need to line in place to get up to that moment. And when that shifted, anyone who used that structure as their safety net, it was like, all the training wheels are off, and I got to figure this out on my own and make it, applicable for myself. And that can freak people out. I mean, across the board, more than than getting on stage, it might have freaked out a lot of things in their lives too, to be unhinged. But in a metaphorical sense, I think the unhinging and the crumbling, if you will, is the opening up of a greater picture for our lives, and a greater a greater opening to who we're really meant to be. But you have to have that stripping away and that crumbling for it even to come forth, And then a lot of people wouldn't have ever been pushed into this without this particular time in history. And there's pain and growth.
Yeah, and I try to look at it as a good thing, like, all right, the show's on hold, I don't know till when, and then I can't go to the gym, I can't meet with clients, can't do anything that I need to do. So I tried to start looking at it as a good thing. Okay, so like, this is something that's now challenging me. Like, that any kind of challenge shows opportunity for growth somewhere, and so I'm fortunate. My fiance is a clinical psychologist, and she's got all these little mental strategies she was trying to give me every day. She's like, just go sit out there, don't touch your phone.
Oh wait, did you say fiance? When did that happen?
It was last August that I proposed to her. Yeah.
Good for you, Dan.
But we're still trying to figure out the wedding. We were trying to
do
in November.
You want to do a Zoom wedding? I'll attend.
I know, right? My brother just got engaged over Zoom, actually.
Oh, not with his fiance, but like showing people.
Well, he had like people there. He's in New York, so we joined.
But she was somewhere.
No. She was.
He zoomed with her, or he zoomed with the family and friends. Okay, good. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. He's like, are you on your knees? I can't tell.
Yeah. But I think at the end of all this, I've just learned a lot of gratitude from everything. I've learned to be grateful for, every gym session I can get.
Right.
Number one.
I take advantage of those weights once a week that I get to.
But also, like, I'm just so much more happy to see everybody. And there's one thing I wanted to talk about at the show that we didn't get to, but when I was in high school, I had this English teacher named Mr. Seligman, who was super insightful. He was like really towards the end of his career, and he always let us talk about whatever we wanted first, so that we kind of in turn listen to him later. So that was kind of the deal. And so he one day had these 3 words written on the board, and he claimed it was the secret to life. And so we were like, okay, like, we're listening. And he said, the secret to life is choices, ripples, and ties. So the choices you make, the ripple effect it has on people around you, good or bad, and then the ties and bonds and friendships that you make kind of along the way. And I thought about that, and it's had more meaning as life goes on, but especially with something like competing and, or putting yourself out there to try to do something new, you making the choice to try to compete and go on stage has a ripple effect on everyone else around you that now inspires other people to think that maybe I can make myself better. Maybe it's not the stage, but I can, try to make some kind of transformative change in my life. And then, you meet form all these relationships and all these bonds with people that sometimes last forever, And so I thought that stood out to me the most during the pandemic was, wow, these people in my life mean a lot, and I was doing those Zoom chats or the group chats with all my buddies, and I was like, man, why don't we do this more,
Yeah, for real. I think that's what it's really like, such an incredible thing, is realizing, what have we been doing all this time, and why hasn't this been precedent over other things? So it's made us really clear on that. And wow, I hope your teacher is still alive to get to witness that ripple effect that he had on you,
he is.
probably other students.
He is,
so
yeah.
awesome.
And it just shows, like, the Instagram celebrity or open likes your photos, like, you got so many people like that think you're the celebrity, so take the time to I try to.
Well, isn't that funny that I during this time I've realized even though I'm absolutely beyond grateful and blown away when I see the connection that I can have on social media, just like with women through the surgery that I had, or through the fitness world, that connection is absolutely like dumbfounding to me sometimes, how deep it can be. But the real thing that I'm experiencing during this time is that deep connection with others in person that I wouldn't have necessarily cherished as much, or I wouldn't have seen it in such an opening way for me. It's allowed me to trust more. It's allowed me to see the value of a friendship or of a relationship with somebody outside of that social media world, because I had taken that on as like, this is my extended family, and given so much to it. And I had to be checked to realize, like, there are people in, I don't like saying real life because it's all real life now, but there's people in this physical, space of you that want to connect with you and that you need to connect with, and that can make some great impressions in your life, and vice versa. So I think it's about being open to anything coming to teach you in this time, like to be open to learn and to experience and to grow and evolve. And I set out on that journey to do that with zero understanding of where it would lead me, like a month before I got surgery. And like, wow, just looking back at the last year and a half and what has transpired, I'm like, I have been prepared for a time such as this. So step into it, lean into it, fear and all, uncertainty and all, like we all have it. We all are going through the exact same thing and can bond over that. So it's like the biggest soul tie, if you will, for all of us to take advantage of that.
Yeah. No, I really felt that same thing. I don't think everyone took it the same way, but it is kind of.
We're recognizing that it's not going to be everyone, but that makes it that much more special for those who do recognize it and want to make those connections. Yeah. So I'm extending that to anybody who's watching this who is part of Muscle Icon, decided to compete, is maybe leaning on not whatever you guys are going through. And if you're in that space of feeling like, without this goal, I'm not really sure where I stand in this, like, reach out. I can't say I'm going to get back to you right away because I am on a slight hiatus, but just reach out to other competitors that you see. I'm sure, Dan, you can connect them, or they have a space where they can all connect, because just being vulnerable enough to reach out and say, hey, are you experiencing this? Like, I'm experiencing this. Like, you'll be so surprised at who is actually going through the exact same thing. And they may come from a totally different background, have kids, don't have kids, married, not married, whatever. Like, the human spirit is so similar. Like, we just need to come together on this and be willing to be vulnerable. So
Yeah, it's a tough thing for people to ask for help, but
Especially
it's
in the
important.
fitness world
Yeah,
where we're supposed to be so strong, right? Like we're in this dichotomy of like building our bodies to be superhuman strength, and yet in here we're hurting and we're hurting here. And it's like, be willing
yeah.
to express that, because that actually makes you that much stronger.
And I think it doesn't help also when you see, as great as this is, that there's a ton of messages out there, motivational memes that say like, never give up, like, which is cool. I like that stuff,
Memes are
but it
cool.
doesn't always apply. And if you're not always going 100%, like, no days off, like kind of mentality of, you're human. You're going to have those days where you're not feeling 100%. You're not feeling confident about yourself. And in times like that, it is not a weakness to reach out to other people and ask for help. And,
that ripple effect again. You don't know how you're going to serve someone, and you don't know how you will be served until you just reach out. Asking for help was one of the best things that I could ever do, was really like exposing what I thought was weaknesses, because then you realize like, if they have that and they have that and they have that, how I don't see them as weak. So how can I see it in myself? So that's how I've been able to learn. And yeah, I think this is incredible that you're doing this, and that thank you for including me in on it, because I know sometimes when people just think about fitness, they don't want to go into the deep stuff or the hard stuff but fitness is all here.
Yeah.
This is just the after effect. But
Right.
if you don't have the willpower and resilience to step back in after taking time off, or give yourself a break when you don't feel like it, or push past something that is hindering you, you'll never achieve the physicality. That's just the kind of the last phase of what's happening here and here. So got to start with building the foundation here.
Yeah, for sure. And your brain's not like a computer that runs one way, and it goes through different things. And, being able to understand that, and then thinking of it as like a strategy, like I try to think about what my mental strategy is every day, especially if I, on the way to work, there's like, my fiance's talked about checking in with yourself is a big thing. What you say to yourself is a big thing. And I think especially when you're on prep and your nutrients are low, or, you're going through some stuff, like that's when you're really challenged. It's, I think trying to manage that, or practice managing it every day, was really helpful for me. Like not when it's at a 10, when I'm losing my mind, but,
I would think now, while they're in a waiting period, the best thing is feed yourself good, nutrient-rich foods. Don't be concerned about the caloric intake, anything that's going to give your brain fuel, your any kind of systems in your body. Give it a break, give it a reset, is going to behoove you. So I would say try to get the mental pressure of the numbers out the way right now, and just work on serving yourself. And nourishing your body and your mind and your soul right now. So the body will come back. If I have one thing that is for sure, the work you put in physically will snap back so fast. But but don't let yourself be like, oh, we're on a break, so I'm just going to go eat donuts. Like, cool. It's okay if you're not worried about the scale, but what's that going to do to here and here? So
there's, it's interesting. We had a period, me and some of the coaches in the gym, where we would try and test food out that way. Where I was doing a nutrition specialist cert, and they were talking about the cognitive reactions and related to your muscular system, and how food can relate to that. So, the gym is kind of like the lab where you can eat something and then test to see how well it works, but it affects you mentally too, on a huge scale. So eat something and it makes you not feel good. That's right. I almost look at that as your body saying, don't eat that again.
Listen. Exactly.
Right. And then where those thoughts can kind of run away, it's definitely noteworthy sometimes, especially.
And when there's no place to put those thoughts, and there's no way of exerting your body unless it's like, go for a run. And not all of us love
running. Yeah. It does a lot for you though.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting outside and moving my body. That's my version of running.
I'm walking our dog, or
exactly.
If I go on a walk, that's my time to kind of like check in,
Exactly.
I don't know if you've ever had this issue where you are up late at night and you just can't turn your brain off.
Mm-hmm.
That was happening to me a lot during COVID, and I went from having like all this responsibility to kind of like getting it all taken away, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was something I learned to practice, was during the day, just sitting with my thoughts a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to solve anything. I just had to sit with them and, just pay attention to what my mind was focusing on. And then that like helped significantly throughout the day,
Yeah.
So
That's an interesting point that you make about having all this responsibility and then having that go away. And like where most people would be like, woo. I
right.
think
Yeah.
as humans, we need to feel purposeful. Like I think more than ever, depression is a symptom of feeling purposeless and meaningless. And when we don't have ways to serve or ways to do, and again, it's that whole like produce, do things, this starts going crazy. So calming the mind and realizing we're not machines made to just do and produce, and to look at ways that we can serve that maybe aren't towards our initial goal, but you'll see that like it'll start to make sense of like what little things we're doing can affect others. And even that being able to reach out is serving, because you're helping someone else see that they're not alone in this.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think your day to day could be, up and down, but your overall could still be going really well. And not lose sight of that is, super important.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that
Absolutely.
just having that long-term goal, helps me a lot.
I mean, it's really great that your fiance is a
Yeah.
therapist, right?
Yeah. A lot of people thought I was going to be in trouble for some reason, she's actually been like much more understanding of, at different times that I've been in tough spots, and we've been able to work through things much smoother than other relationships I've been in, just because she's got a deeper understanding on, how the mind works, how thoughts work.
Right. And this time has really revealed to us who we want to spend our time with, and if we'd rather just go it alone or, cherish the ones that are working for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Just touching on the whole idea of doing more than, just competing, because, during this time, the gym was taken away, the shows are taken away, at least for that, like, 4 or 5 month period. And so I wanted to kind of dive deeper into what you talked about when you were competing and when you decided to walk away. What were you, number one, I guess, what was it that you walked away from bodybuilding? And then how were you able to kind of strategize who you wanted to be outside of the stage,
Right. So I think I had briefly touched on how I got into bodybuilding in a previous interview with you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the fact that it was never like a forever goal for me made it a little easier to walk away from the sport, but my competitive nature was with me regardless. So it was always in the back of my mind, like, if you're going to go after this, be the best. I mean, I don't really have a level between that. It's a sickness that I'm working on, but my competitive nature is like, you're going to go after it, like figure out all the ways to rise to the top, if you will. Again, which is why I ended up getting implants, because you hear all the time that if you want to compete at that level, you need to have symmetry, and they don't say it, but they go, that's what it is. So I got them obviously to compete at that level. And once you start changing and altering yourself for the appeasement of others, or what their standard of something is the quickest way to lose yourself. And I found that as I was competing and realizing, okay, I like this aspect, I like the fact that I'm watching my body change and alter by the things I'm doing, like the food that I'm taking, because I was in charge of my nutrition, my diet, even my training. just everything was me learning about my own body, which helped me for later, but it didn't allow me to rest on a program someone gave me or rest on the advice of a coach. And when the industry would tell me, like, you need to get with a coach, basically you're not going to place if you're not with a team, and all these rules and stipulations that didn't speak to me. I was like, I'm just here to be a better version of myself, to push myself, to show myself what I can do. All these other negative things started coming into play, and I had, you know, a conversation with myself, and I had to really assess what was more important. And I remember getting off stage and getting like fourth or something, and I needed to place third in order to get my pro card. And that was the day that I left NPC, because then I moved over to WBFF, where I felt like my physicality would be better received. You know, they said I had too much muscle for bikini, and then a little bit too thick for figure. And I just started thinking, like, I don't want to be told where I'm going to be placed based on my body type and how hard I've worked to be just who I am right here. That was the beginning mentality of creating my own lane that I didn't realize I was doing at that time. And I remember I was backstage and I was like, just that exhaustion bawling of like, I don't know if I can do this again. Mentally, I was exhausted. Obviously, from any competitor can know, it's like giving up all the life stuff we had done previously, the holidays, the family get-togethers, the birthdays, the going out, anything. I mean, I was just eat, sleep, breathe, broccoli and chicken and asparagus and literally jugs of water and all that fun stuff, sweat and tears. And it was in that moment in the dressing room that I felt like this is a make or break moment for me. I was alone, you know, obviously without a team. And at that moment I was like, okay, I understand why people have teams, but I can do hard things alone. And I had to just decide, like, I'm going to keep doing this for myself, or I'm going to strive for somebody else. And I gave myself basically like, I'm getting out of this, you know, you the best way I can put it is I was told that if you switch from one league, if you will, to another, like, no one's going to receive you. You look like a flip-flopper, and and I was like, I'm not in this for any of it. I'm in it to push myself and because I set a goal for myself. So I shifted and I went into WBFF, and I loved that for the little while that I was in that. And then I realized soon after that was literally the same as the other one. But for me, I didn't need the accolades anymore. I didn't even want the title. It didn't matter the work that I put in. I realized that I had this innate ability to connect with women on a level of like, you don't need all this other stuff. You just need a want and a desire to change and to transform yourself. And that was a realization that I could combine all my years of training for sports and athletics, my learning on how to do social media, because that was totally green for me. Like, I didn't even get on social media until after I had competed, and I was already out of that world for a year till I took social media seriously. And I just was like, I can get so much more out of expressing who I am than being this caricature of myself. And that's what ended up drawing people to me. But I had no idea that that's what I was setting out to do. You know, I fully thought, like, I'm going to get on stage and get a trophy and get a contract, and then I'll make it on, you know, this sponsorship and this social media. And I was the girl reaching out to companies like, I would love to work with you. I know I only have 1,000 followers. I promise I'm going to, you know, work on it, and I'm going to be something. And like, I was just desperate typing letters of my soul and not realizing that that was never going to be my path. But I had to be open to the change of you know what, Tamara, I think you're being called to do something different. It only took, where are we, 5 years, 6 years now to realize it was for something totally different. It was
Right.
to build this sense of um, authority, if you will, in who I am, and not second guessing that, and realizing that my lane has shifted and ebbed and flowed, but people have been along for the ride, and realizing maybe through me to see like fitness doesn't look one way. Bodybuilding world doesn't look one way. It doesn't. I've been the super buff, ripped, can do a crazy amount of things in the gym. I've been the soft, more feminine, wanting to just do the fitness modeling thing, and I've been where it's all merging and converging now is like fitness has been so much a part of my life, like the athleticism, the sport aspect of it, and the health and wellness and the mental side has always been something like I have been doing for myself so much, that so now that I think we realize the aspects of ourselves that are our biggest like obtrusions are what we end up like teaching to others or exploring with others. And it's safe to say that like sometimes the things we see as our weaknesses are the things that gonna be how we connect with others, if you're willing to really take a look at them and not be afraid to explore them. And you know, we're such, anytime you're a competitor, you're kind of a perfectionist already, like that's in our nature. And so we want to be perfect at something before we teach it, before we put it out there. But
Right.
really it's in the journey of exploring it that
Yeah.
can help people the most. And that's what I think the fitness world is going to shift into, is really more serving, more purposeful, and more opening up the doors of like, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for this path that is rocky and has been totally unorthodox, but that's what we love. And that's what we want to show people, is taking it back to day one of our interview. It's
Yeah.
about the journey at the end of the day. Like, it's not about that stage.
Yeah. And, that was something that I started noticing a lot with people trying to get their pro card, and as impressive and great a feat as that is to get your pro card. I've met some competitors that is their main goal, and they only work for that. And I can't help but think that, you don't need to have you're already inspiring a lot of people. You don't need the pro card to do things,
Right.
so that's where I thought the stage is great. It teaches you a lot of things. It's got a lot of good motivation. It's fun to do. It's incredibly rewarding,
Yes.
and it can be a great career. But even the
Mm-hmm.
best bodybuilders have to do more than just eat chicken and go on stage
Yeah.
and try to compete. It's got to be more than that, and that's what we wanted to address more with Muscle Icon, is to bring more of that aspect to competing, and not just make it about bodies on stage, but about the journey, like you're talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
it impacts so many people that, if you can share it, you
Right.
realize how many other people relate to what you're going through, so it's good to share both good and bad. It's not just, we don't want to just hear about the times you're killing it, and that's where I think social media could be a little more social,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like unsocial media sometimes, like no one's
Yeah.
supporting each other, like it just,
Yeah.
it's kind of like take, and um, but I really like that whole aspect. And so when we were started this whole thing, and we're talking about this from the get-go, I loved that whole aspect of trying to be more than muscle, and that was your thing that you kind of introduced, and I just thought that was great. And and surprisingly, a lot of competitors agree behind the
Yeah.
scenes. They've told me, they're like, I really like this. This is, you know there's more meaning behind it, more soul
Right. And I
behind
think
it.
that when you've quote unquote achieved that physical look that you were going for, most of the time you get there and you realize it isn't about this doesn't bring me all the joys, all the happiness, all the peace, you know. It's like, it was everything I learned building these muscles. It was everything I learned sacrificing for these muscles. It was everything I learned, you know, releasing fears and pushing past barriers to get these muscles. So these muscles are a trophy in of itself,
Right.
of all the becoming that has happened. And so that you can look at them in the mirror and go, I know what I've put in, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says. I know what that means. And that if those physical muscles get stripped away from you, injury, surgery, can't lift, can't go to the gym, what have you, you have those building blocks of how you got there, and you know that you can do those things. They just may look differently, and they may create a different result outwardly, but that you always have the knowledge that you knew how to get there and that you can do it again, you know. So I think that sticks with us forever. So get the process of getting on stage, however long that's going to take, however long we have until the stage comes back, that process is a gift and a trophy in itself. So they should remember that and hold that with them, and know that each and every day that they are resilient to what is happening is teaching them something, and they're gonna get innumerable value from that process. So to just keep holding on, and literally not look at it as like when, but just like, I'm here creating, doing the work, and that's a beautiful process. Like, we're all doing it.
It is. Yeah. It's awesome.
This has been great.
Love that.
Really, like, this is so awesome. I think that more industries, even if it's not fitness, but more industries need to look within themselves and be able to open up like this. And I'm really grateful to be a part of the fitness industry for what it has done for me and what I have learned from it, and to hopefully bridge something for those that come from that mentality of muscle and physicality and strive for more and bigger, and, you know, bigger, faster, stronger, all that stuff, and allow and give space for those who kind of want to let some of that go. Like, I'm holding space for that, because I'm like, I've had to walk this walk and realize that I've gotten so much more out of letting the aesthetic go and just allowing the goodness of life to come in. And you know what? The body will go like this, and it changes all the freaking time, no matter if we like it or not. We cannot control its every movement. But it's about feeling good and feeling aligned, and I'm team that. So like,
for sure.
I'm here if anyone wants to chat about that. That's where my vibe is. That's where I am taking fitness.